Coach, is Russ Brown, Kentucky Today. How did you determine which players you were bringing into this first group, and is there one position group that's more prevalent than the others?
Well, what we did as a staff, who did you say this was? I couldn't hear the name.
Yeah, Russ Brown.
Russ, okay, Russ. Yeah, so Russ, what we did as a staff, we just kind of went through, basically a good bit of our starters and figured out who we needed to bring in the most, the most important as far as right now, as far as their bodies and mentally and things of that nature to get a good jump start on it. So we kind of focus on our first and second groups, and then just rank those guys from there, and then we want to try to make sure we get. Especially some of the defensive linemen and, some of the guys that were hurt that we needed to get in here as soon as possible so they get some treatment, as well. And so we kind of did it that way. The most important guys, the first and second team guys, and then the guys that are injured that need to be here doing a good bit of rehab, to get well for the season.
Was one position group more prevalent than you have more players from one position than the other?
I think it was mainly even. I think we may have maybe three or four of our defensive linemen, and three. We have four corners. We have three safeties. So it's kind of just a mix and match of just a lot of different guys, and didn't want it to be eight defensive linemen versus what we have, and so we kind of got it spread out even, so we can make sure that next group is spread out even as well.
Okay.
Bryan, this is Ken Spencer with WHAS 11. Are you
I'm sorry, I
allowed
didn't get the name.
This is Ken Spencer with WHAS 11.
Yeah, okay.
Are you allowed back in the building yet? And what can your interaction be with the guys? I know you guys have been doing a ton of Zoom meetings, but can you have some maybe in-person social distancing kind of face-to-face meetings?
Not right now, Kent. Not right now. We're not allowed to, go in and meet with the guys and things of that nature. Now I go in there and get, maybe my computer. I get, our video guy to download some more stuff on my computer and things of that nature. But nothing to the extent of, hey, let's have a meeting. We can't do that at all right now. And hopefully we'll be able to get to that point in July. We had a team meeting yesterday, so I was able to go to that and be at the very back. With those guys, and it was just great to see them. We hadn't seen them all summer, man, and it was like, are you kidding me? But the one thing you can't do, you can't hug them, or you can't give them no dap. You can't do any of those things, and that takes that was hard for me, not to give those guys some love as I saw them yesterday, as opposed to the previous Saturday when we had a team meeting. But no meetings right now. Hopefully we'll get that done in July. But we'll do our Zoom meetings. So.
Hey, Bryan, it's Cameron from the Courier Journal. I'm just curious, you mentioned that team meeting. Just what was that like? Like you said, you hadn't seen them in forever. Just what was that meeting like, seeing them for the first time in forever?
Man, it was great. It was great to see them. We had one meeting, when when a lot of the protests and things were going on, and it hit here in Louisville. We had one team meeting on a Saturday, and so I was able to see about 20 guys or so. And but it was just great to see those guys then, and the rest of the guys that ended up coming up on yesterday. It was just awesome. Guys, we have not seen these guys since they left for spring break. That's been a long time, to see them in person. So it was just awesome, man. It was just, you've been with these guys for a year and a half now, and and then have it to cut short to where you don't see them for 2.5 months. That was tough, man. It's just like, we treat these guys like our kids, man. So it's just like you being away from your own children for that, a length of time. It was just tough. So it was awesome to see them. And, the guys went over last night about, what they have to do this week as far as workout wise, and the facility rules, where to be, where not to be, the things they have to do every single morning to check in, the checkpoints and things of that nature. So it was basically going over a good bit of that stuff. And but it was great to just get those guys back to going. And I know Coach Mike and his staff are going to do a great job of keeping those guys healthy, and Matt as well, and getting those guys ready for the season.
Coach Fred Callaghan with WLKY, you touched on the protests. Have you guys had any conversations about what's going on in Louisville and around the country, and what has been the give and take and all of that stuff?
Yeah, we've had multiple conversations, and we've done it positionally, as well as a defensive unit, as well as a team, and so we express our concerns and thoughts, as well as just let those guys know that hey, we're here for them, man, and that's the one thing that we've done. We've listened to those guys as opposed to giving a lot of our opinions, but. We want to hear from those guys and how they feel, and what is their stance, and we're there to support them in any and every way that we can. We had one day where we walked the bridge, and I think we'll do something else again this week. We had some community service sometime later on this week as well. So we're trying to get out in the community and do things. Get ready started this week with a lot of the guys back now. And then we'll just try to continue to do that, throughout the whole summer, and even the season. And that's one thing Coach Sachs said, that we need to make sure that we don't let this thing die, about the racial diversity, racial tension is going on, the police brutality, of people of color. We just don't need to let it die down. So we'll continue to do stuff all summer and not just let it be a two-week thing and let it die down. So, we're excited about that. The kids are excited about it. So, whatever they want to do and do it in a peaceful as well as a professional manner, no doubt we'll be there with them right by their side.
Coach, Nice McEwen with WDRB. Obviously, when you look at coaching staffs across the board of college coaching, not a lot proportionately of African American coaches to white. You being one of the exceptions for a coordinator. How important, especially as a former player, is it to have black coaches for a predominantly black sport athlete?
I think it's very, very important. Yeah, I really do. And the reason why I say it is just what you just said. You have a majority of the team is African American, across the country, in multiple places. It's important for those guys to be able to see, people of color, of the same color there as them, to be able to be in a leadership role, in a leadership position, to where they know, hey, at some point, if I want to be a defense coordinator or a Fortune 500 company, CEO, I can do that, But until they're able to see, people of color in those type of leadership roles, I think they kind of have doubt in their mind that, hey, maybe I can't do that. But it is really important for us to have African Americans in leadership roles, whether it's coordinators, head coaches, GMs, whatever the case may be. It must be that, and I think that with all the things that are going on right now, I think we'll see a little bit more of that as well. It's so many guys are deserving of it, and just don't get that opportunity. So. But I think it really is important for us to be able to have African Americans in leadership roles.
Bryan, it's Cameron from the Courier Journal again. You mentioned the walkout by the bridge. I guess how did that kind of get going, and then what did that mean for you to be able to do that with your players and your coaching staff?
Well, Anthony Johnson, a corner of ours, he actually led it, and he wanted to do something. With the guys, with the team. And I think he's actually going to be leading the one this week that we're actually going to do later on this week. But he wanted to do something, man, after we had a team meeting on that Saturday. I thought it was awesome. So he put a good bit of guys that were there at that meeting in the group message that were here in town, as well as some of the coaches and Chris Morgan and people of leadership roles in the program. And I thought it was awesome. He led it. It wasn't one of those deals where, hey, we as coaches say, hey, this is what we're doing. No, those guys didn't. And that's what we want to be. We want to be a player-led team. And that's what we've been saying since we got here. And that's what, we've had so much success doing that. And when our players take charge and they're not always come as from the coaches, then you got something, then you'll be able to go a long way. And we've seen that done while our time at App State. And but Anthony Johnson, he's the one who headed it, and with Chris Morgan and those guys and Coach Mike. But it was awesome to see, and we can't wait for the next one this week. But it meant a lot, being African American, the things we've seen, I've seen, over my lifetime. Being from Mississippi and just, growing up in a place where in Corinth to where, it was, mixture. But you still see some things, you hear some things, even when you're playing sports, you hear, being called an N-word and things of that nature. So, it's tough. It's tough for us as African Americans to be able to go through things like that. And being that, sometimes we don't get the opportunities that, some people deserve. And just because of the color of our skin. And I think those guys, they understand it. They believe it, and I know our coaches understand they believe it as well, and that's why we're out for a change, and change needs to happen. It's been long overdue, and we're excited about the things that are going on as far as the protests, the peaceful protests, and that hopefully we'll have some action and have some change, and I think we're heading in the right direction.
Bryan, this is Ken again with WHAS 11. The kind of talks that you've had with your players in the last week or two, as a coach, as a leader of young men, have you always had those talks with your guys, or is this kind of newfound territory even from you as far as communicating it with your players?
To be honest, Kent, man, this is really the first time that you really had to have a true deep conversation about it. And there's been other times where, I've been in other schools to where, an incident may happen and you may talk about it for a day or so. But, with the things that's been happening, for over this whole year, that's just back to back to back. It just seems like, these conversations have been almost every time we start a position meet now, and that's one thing that we've started, I started in my position group is, the first 10, 15 minutes, of our meeting is just about life. Just about life in general. And it's been about, all the protests and things that are going on with the George Floyd and Breonna's death and Aubrey's death. It's been about those. It's been about, they want to talk about God, so it's been a lot more about this time that we've been away from football. This past week and a half, 2 weeks, it hadn't been a whole lot of football. And I think that's good, because you got to have those conversations. I really do. I think you have to have those conversations with these young men, because they are the next group that are going to lead our country. They're going to lead us into the next one, into my son. And I think that's very important for us to have those conversations. And it's been awesome to hear their stories, man. It really has, and it touched your heart. It makes you mad, makes you angry. It makes you sad, and then some of it makes you, really proud of the way that they've, stepped up social media wise and just wanting to take a stance on this issue, whether it's white, black, whoever, all of our whole team, man, they have bonded so much, since we've gotten here. And I think this is only going to make us gel a whole lot better together for sure.
Bryan, Cameron from the Courier-Journal again. Do you feel like these guys have, a bigger voice now than they might have in the past to speak about these things, or you just think that's just kind of the sign of the times of what's going on right now?
Well, no, I think this, Cam. I think that anytime you're an athlete, no matter where you are, sports is a big deal in this country and in the world in general. And so when you have that platform to being an athlete, you think about LeBron James or Michael Jordan, you think about Lamar Jackson, all those guys that have really, really high platforms, they're athletes, and the same thing in college. You think about Trevor Lawrence, his pedestal that he's on, he has a platform being an athlete. The guys here, think about Mikhail, you think about Tutu. You think about all those guys, man, that wear a jersey, that play a game and a sport that they love and get an education doing so. They have a platform to be able to, voice their opinion, and I think that their opinion matters. It does. It matters a lot. And but I think just being an athlete in general, those guys have a voice and they're proud. And we told them, hey, use your platform that you have. Use it. Use it to the best of your ability, because you got a lot of followers. You got a lot of people that look up to you back in your hometown or whatever the case may be. You may be able to reach that one person, maybe two people, that can change their view on African Americans as well as just minorities in general. So just use your platform to the best of your ability, and then let God do the rest.
Bryan, Michael McCammon from Cardinal Authority. Kind of on that note with the players using their platform, seen a couple former Cardinals here in town, Jamon Brown, Devontae Parker, and some others, using, I guess, their celebrity to a point to where they can spread that message. Has there been any communication between them and the football staff maybe about bringing them in and talking to the current players?
Yeah, I think Chris has kind of, mentioned it a little bit. Chris Morgan, who's our FCA chaplain and head of SCA on campus. We've kind of talked a little bit about it. We've had, a couple of people lined up for the summer to actually come up and speak to the guys, but with this coronavirus deal, it's kind of, we had to reschedule things. So, but yes, those guys actually, I think some of our team members went down and actually cleaned up with Jamon the other day, and did some of that stuff. So we are in communication with some of those guys. I know I'm not, but I'm pretty sure like Coach Chris Morgan and some of those guys have reached out to him and know him, and hopefully we'll be able to get those guys on at some point to be able to talk to our team, just about this issue and how to go about protesting and doing things the right way.
Coach, this is Kent Taylor from Wave TV. You mentioned having this discussion with your players for the first time. Are race relations, is that something that's now coming up with recruits, especially with Louisville being kind of at the forefront?
To be honest, we hadn't had a whole lot of, I think I can count on my one hand that maybe a couple of people have reached out and asked, hey, what's going on in Louisville? Things of that nature. And is Louisville safe? Is it okay? For my kids, but not a whole lot. And I would have thought it would have been a whole lot more. I really did. Once it started happening, I was like, my phone's probably finna get ready to start buzzing a lot, here the next couple of days, but it wasn't. And, we hadn't had a whole lot of conversation with those guys, but the guys that did ask those questions, to answer your question, they did have concerns, and, we told them, hey, these guys are just doing, their protests and saying, speaking how they feel, and that hopefully we'll be able to get back to, where it's a normal town, for sure.
Anything else for
Cameron again.
Excuse me.
You talked. Can you hear me, Bryan?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you talked about obviously wanting the players to have that platform, and you have guys who are pretty outspoken on social media already. Guys, upperclassmen, underclassmen. Just how much pride does that give you, all with your guys, that they're being able to use that platform no matter how people respond on social media? Because obviously people can be kind of crazy on Twitter.
Man, I know it, and it gives me a lot of pride. So because we want our guys to be who you are, be who you are. We don't want anybody to be somebody that they're not. And I think what Coach Satt has done and being able to, he doesn't, make guys not be on Twitter and things of that nature, or any type of social media. He just allows us as coaches, he allows the players just to be yourself and to be able to speak out. But that's who he's been, that's who we've been, and I'm very proudful, that these guys are able to use their voices, use their platform, to be able to help create change, and that's change that we need, in this world, in this country, in this city. And I think those guys can help, with their platform, and I'm just excited for them, and you can just see that they're excited as well to be able to use their platform to be able to help create change, and that's all we want. We want change, and we want to be able to let everybody be treated equally and to be treated fairly, and that we love one another just like we love our neighbors, and that's what we want to do.
Anything else for Coach? All right, Coach. Appreciate it. Good job. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys, man. Yes, thank you guys for all you do, brother. See you guys later.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.